Hello Sagittarius, and welcome to your January 2022 reading and predictions. Hi, I'm Nigel Saint James, for those of you who are stopping by for the first time, and it's great to see you subscribers. How are you doing? I hope you're keeping well, and love and affection to you as always. And as you know, subscribers, I have published the annual 2022 reading, which uses 12 cards, one for each month of the year, and that can be found on the playlist on my channel. Very simple, only about 3 things on it, and that's one of them. It's simple to find, even a baby could find it, as many babies have told me. Now, what can I say? Well, what can I say about this deck? You know, normally I use, within the tarot, a lot of astrology, horoscope. I use numerology. I use mystical Kabbalah. I use a lot of divination from reference to areas of divine emanation. This deck says don't do that. This deck actually says you, that's me, Nigel, be a channel through which various centers of consciousness can speak directly to you. I don't know how it works, but I don't even know what they say. But it is information which just pours through in a way which is intelligent, because you're intelligent, and in a way which makes sense to you, and it could have things to do with your shadow self or your shadow or your darker side. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's not scary or anything like that. But at this time of year in particular, it makes good sense to do a bit of weeding of the mental garden, doesn't it? And so there will be reference to some of the mystery religions of Greece and Rome and ancient Egypt, and we shall see what comes through depending on what card there is. And they shall speak and speak to you. Let's see what they are. Now, they only need 5 cards because that's what we're going to do to make sure it stays within time. And this is the first one for you. And what is it? It's the 7 of Wands. That's a good card. Let's have a look here too. What's that? That's Temperance. What is this? That's the 6 of Swords. Anything jumping out from here? What's that? That's the 2 of Swords. And why not get something here? What is this? The 10 of Swords. Okay. Now, what we will do as usual though is that I'll ask you to come and sit down here next to me. We will have a good close look at the imagery on these cards together while I do the reading for you. Here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to have a look at this one first. It just looks quite interesting, I think. Temperance. Should go there anyway. It's Major Arcana, isn't it? The Temperance card. Let's have a look. Well, the card image portrays the mysteries of temperance as the art of alchemy, though it bears common mysteries also. Here is the art of blending different aspects of something to create something better, of manipulating the resources you have in a process of creation, of tempering your activities to ensure that through moderation you are productive. Now, the name of this card, I don't think, adequately conveys the depth of the mystery that it holds, conjuring up images of quiet virtue and timidity, temperance. The title, I think, seems to ignore the mystical transformation of the soul that takes place here in the process by which the base matter of the self can be changed into spiritual gold. However, temperance is the virtue that is most apt for the art form of the alchemical process, because the process separates the perfect spirit from the unrefined base earth, the subtle from the dense, gently with unremitting care. This is a gentle art performed with prudence and temperance. Now, as to the mystery in relation to the card, I think that the spiritual journey is one of unending transformation. There is no completion at its far shores, nor the final consumption of the fuel for its phoenix fires. Even the moment of perfect attainment produces the essence of change, for the spiritual accomplishment of one spreads like a wildfire through the web of the world and the hearts of all. Thus, the stone of the philosophers turns lead into gold, the gross into the sublime. Yet, the journey to refine that miraculous stone is one of careful moderation, of the tempering of the heat of the sun and the coolness of the moon, the dryness of the day and the wetness of the night. Like the blacksmith's art of hammering and tempering the metal that will be forged into beauty and death, the alchemist's art shapes and changes the base in the vessel, undergoing many stages. The creation of the universe takes place within his art, and the creation of illumination in the vessel of his heart. But slowly, with measured grace and attentive care, must he approach the great work. There he shall rectify the base earth and find the hidden jewel. Now, I think we might look at this Wands card, and then we'll have some swords action, I think. Let's have a look. What do you have to say here? Oh, this is interesting, isn't it? Make sure that gets up. There you go. Well, we've come here to the Seven of Wands to be reminded that revolution will always come. It is not many steps for a glorious leader to become an oppressor. And in the Seven here, somebody takes a stand against oppression and fights for liberty. The person taking on this role is usually an underdog, somebody at a disadvantage and fighting against almost impossible odds. That which they fight against is ingrained and systemic, deeply wounding and controlling. And there are many others who are unable to fight for themselves, looking to the figure of the Seven of Wands to fight on their behalf. In this way, the Seven of Wands, I think, represents a freedom fighter this month, a rebel for a good cause, a campaigner, a protester, and somebody fighting because there is no other choice. Those who are given no way out of a fight often fight the hardest. Now, the mystery that's associated with this is, well, the leader stands tall and proud above his people, yet when his weight bears down upon them, when his word crushes and threatens, when his hand no longer protects but wounds, we must stand against him. We may be weak. We may be burdened and filled with fear. We may challenge the majority, yet it only takes a single grain to tip the scales. The cowards say that one alone cannot stand, but walk the path over the burning mountains with me, and I shall show you how to fight the battle of the freedom fighter and rebel, how to lift up the oppressed and give voice to the unspoken. I shall show you how to topple kingdoms and destroy the bounds and bonds of slavery. Those who would disparage and curse you, I shall pit against your strength alone, and you shall know the power of revolution. This road you walk is one upon which you are low and unworthy, upon which you are trampled and thrown down. But from the pain of the hot sand you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. What more can they do? Pain is pain. Sorrow is sorrow. It can only give rise to a refusal to accept it again. Take up your weapons, warrior. Take up your strength and all your many wrongs done to you. They are your sword and your shield. They shall strike down your oppressors and protect you. No battle is truly lost if your still will is there. It will produce success. Well, shall we have a look at... So we do some swords action, and the others are all swords. So let's look at this one, number 2. There you go. Now, well, the man in this image is a player of a board game. He carefully considers all of the moves of the pieces on the board and their outcomes. His brow is furrowed in thought. This is the logical process that takes place in the mind before a choice is made, and at some point soon the man will make his first move of the game. Now, as to the mystery associated with this energy, I think the sword is sharp and deadly. It has the power to create or destroy worlds. Yet it is not only a point. Its two edges define it and draw it from the abstract to the manifest so that you might feel its weight. Its balance dictates the ease with which you wield it, for balance in all things is a blessing. The road of the sword is one of careful thought and strategy, of consideration and logical extension. For this, the mind must always be ready. You must not fear the choice that unfolds before you, nor be afraid of speaking about it. Yet rush not into your words. In that moment before you have declared your word, entire worlds can be created or destroyed. In that moment, the universe unfolds before you with the lines of cause and effect presented to your inner eye. Learn to read this map with care and attention, and you will soon walk the thresholds of balance and duality with joy, welcoming every new moment of before speaking. Maybe we're not made to know the future, but you might glimpse the myriad of possible worlds and futures awaiting manifestation at the moment you step from your high seat of vision and make your first move. Now, he looked like a Viking, and this also looks like Vikings here. We'll do this 6 of Swords. Let's have a look. Now, what's interesting about this is that the image in the card here shows a community of Viking settlers readying their ships for the journey to their new life. As the ships sail off from one shore to another, the spirit of a pregnant woman watches over them. This is the Norse Filia, a female spirit that followed a person and would pass on to another family member upon the death of her owner, carrying their luck to the next generation. In this way, luck and fortune were seen as transitional. Now, the ships in the card image are particularly important, I think, as they represent the Viking opportunities of trade, exploration, raiding, and settlement. You know, they carried them to new lands and lives, creating a new age for medieval Europe, didn't they? They also formed part of certain funerary rites for the Vikings. So ships for Vikings talk about not only being the vessel through which to take to a new life in this life, but also a way to go to the new life that awaits us after this life. Now the mystery is, from one shore to the other, the mind must travel, soul-driven and bound for new horizons. Here, in transition, the mind is free and unbound, at peace. Here might the souls settle anew in harmony. Follow the pathways of discovery. Set your ship for unknown sunrise over the edge of the horizon and let your mind roam free. Fear not storm-tossed waters, nor think too hard about what has been left ashore, for I guard you and keep you, gently directing your course. My blessings are passed down through the ages by blood, from elder to younger, between namesakes, through memory. Know that I will always be with you, and this you shall carry all you need for the journey, not burdensome baggage, but the featherlight memories of the past and your ancestors, the timeless collection of wisdom that forms the shore from which you may launch your ship on the ocean roads. Mine is the journey of the questing mind, of the welcoming of a dawn under a new sky, of moving ever onwards to new horizons. Mine is the gentle hand leading you, and the touch upon your shoulder, so that you know that I am following. For this is the ship leading to a new world that you create from what you have brought with you. Now, that takes us to this one, isn't it? This is the final card. Let's have a look, see what we have. Now, this is the Ten of Swords. Beautiful image. For many cultures, defeat on the battlefield is an unwelcome crisis point, a sign of failure. For most of us, death and destruction are the ultimate evils to be avoided. Now, not so for the Vikings, for whom death on the battlefield was welcomed as a good death. Those who died in this way were taken to the halls of Odin in Valhalla, where they feasted and prepared for the final battle of Ragnarok. And those sent to bring the fallen from the battlefield to Valhalla were beings called the Valkyries, who allot death to men and govern victory. And they were depicted in the sagas and poetry as battle maidens wearing helmets and blood-drenched chain-mail tunics, light shining from their spears. Now, the destruction of the self created and administered by the Valkyries on the field of battle gives way to a final aspect of the Ten of Swords, rebirth. From the darkness comes the dawn, and after destruction comes liberation. Now, scholars have commented that the capacity to be reborn seems to be most frequently associated with the Valkyries. There are tales of a Valkyrie and her lover reborn 3 times, each finding each other and loving one another anew. A Valkyrie granting a name to a nameless man, and a Valkyrie whose act of setting herself on fire on the cremation pyre of her partner is seen as an act towards rebirth. But what is the mystery that is associated with this, I hear you ask? Well, here at the end of logic and reason, in the battlefield of the mind, night has fallen. As a warrior, you walk the bloody blade road, and with every cutting away and stripping down, the pain increases, yet it becomes clearer. With every moment of breakdown, confusion drops away. There is no avoidance possible, for nothing that is born can remain unchanged and unchallenged, and the years of the mind cause it to take on burdens and construct secure worlds that must eventually burn. Like the sacking of a city, the mind must be pillaged Like the body on the cremation pyre, it must be incinerated in fire and blood. Like the sword and the warrior, it must be tested until it fails. For only in failure and the identification of weakness can strength be founded. I come to you, bloody one, on the field of raven fodder, astride the great beasts that will consume you. Shaking a spear and thundering the loud battle cry for all to hear, here lies a god to whom death came lovingly. Ignore not my outstretched hand, but embrace me as a lover. For on these cutting roads you can love tenderly your destruction and welcome your end. Let me take you as my lover, and we will pass the night in your burial mound, there to welcome the new dawn with loud cries, rage, and a feast for the ravens. Very, very interesting set of cards. That's the way it is for you this month. Well, that's January 2022 done for you. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating, I think. Don't you? I think it's going to be a great month for you. And don't you deserve it? You really do. Anyway, some interesting food for thought there, I think, and you know how to do it. Onwards and upwards for you always. Now, remember one thing, and it's one thing to remember until I see you again, and it is this, that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. And until then, it's bye for now.